Hello, Derek, Tim, Scott.
Hello, Jason, Cammisa.
It's been a while since we've been on the ISSIMI channel.
It's been many moons, more than 12 of them, in fact.
Is that a thing?
Moons?
12 things?
A month. 12 months. A moon is a month.
A moon is a fucking thing that's on the...
It takes a month for the moon to do its cycle, so many moons ago means many months ago.
Is that many months or many 28-day lunar cycles?
That.
Okay. Anyway, as you can see, here we are at episode 100 of the Carmudgeon show, which has not changed at all in our...
And you have noticed that the last episode was 46, so there have actually been 53-ish intervening episodes since the last episode. If you didn't know, the Carmudgeon show has a new home on the Carmudgeon show channel, dedicated channel.
So you've been missing out on all this bullshit, like learning that a moon... I thought a moon was like a night. 10 moons ago, many moons ago, there was many nights. I guess the moon goes over and then fucking good morning.
I think it's a month. No matter. This is neither here nor there. It's deeply off topic. This episode, I guess we don't have to tell people what it's about because that is a sort of... it's not an ISSIMI convention. We don't have to do that.
Okay, we'll do this for the Haggerty version.
Yes.
Okay, so for the record, there'll be two versions of this. This one that you're watching right now is on the ISSIMI channel. You can also go to the Carmudgeon show, which is part of the Haggerty podcast network. That channel, subscribe and watch us there. But either way, at the end of this video, we will remind you to go to the Carmudgeon show YouTube channel and subscribe there because we know you're out there.
I'm scared.
Don't be scared. Sign up. Subscribe. Like the bell. Ding.
This is going to be very therapeutic.
What's happening in 2 hours?
I'm going to unsocko myself slightly.
Slightly desocotization?
Yeah, slight desocotization or similar. My E320 sedan is ending on Bring a Trailer because I have I think I've purchased 3 or acquired 3 Socko cars in the last month.
I think we need to rename the podcast. So hold on. The purpose of you saying that is anyone who's watching, if you want a Derek Tam-Scott Socko car, you could go have an E320 that's on Bring a Trailer, but it's ending in 2 hours from the time this episode debuts, provided that we actually get this episode out the door on time, which has not actually been the case every time recently.
Yes, we had a couple of Tuesday episodes, but yeah, it's a sedan. It's an E320 sedan that's blue on blue that will go away because the wagon arrived. But first, let's have an actual episode about number 100. Everyone, of course, will want to know whether this is the Piëch-isode. It is not.
Thank you. I didn't want to have to say it. Listen. Let's make this very clear to our audience. We want to do the Piëch-isode as much as, and potentially more than you guys want to hear the Piëch-isode.
I don't think so. I was threatened with riots last week.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah.
This is the Piëch-isode. No, look, we want to do it right. And we just both haven't. I'm in Miata land doing research on a revelation.
There's a place in Italy called Miata land. Did you know that?
No.
It is a hotel in rural Italy. I shouldn't share this with people or it's going to be overrun. But they have Miatas, like a collection of maybe 20 Miatas of various eras. And I think you can like rent one as part of your Miata stay at Miata land. It's like a villa that is Miata themed hotel in Italy. Yeah. Okay, I've been meaning to go to Miata land, but I just haven't gotten around to it.
I'm living as opposed to staying temporarily in Miata land. And we haven't had time to do this research. And so I'm sorry. On behalf of all Carmudgeons, I am sorry that we have not yet done sufficient research to give you the Piëch-isode that you deserve.
I have started. I have some materials.
I started too a couple years ago.
Oh,
when we started, the other thing we started was this. We just went and looked. We started this podcast almost 4 years ago.
Yeah, it was fall of 19.
Pre-pandemic.
Pre-pandemic. If you include our sort of casual hiatus schedule of like once every 3 months that we did in what year was that?
Prior to an infusion of enthusiasm by the Haggerty podcast network, we just did it when we Carmudgeoned when we had time. So it started out originally, if you remember, as I had a 15-minute timer or was it 20? 20. Mm-hmm. I thought like people have a 20-minute commute. You know, let's just
lucky or
unlucky or under, right? Let's just limit the show to 20 minutes. So we had a buzzer, we had the bullshit buzzer, and then we had a timer set. Mm-hmm. And at the 20-minute mark, we wound it down.
Yes.
And much to my horror and surprise, People
Everyone
were like,
was like, more.
Yeah.
And we're like, are you sure?
really? These people want to listen to us talk for more than 20 minutes?
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah, and they still do.
They absolutely still do. Our viewership numbers are amazing. So thank you to all of you who view and or listen. So yeah, we kind of went through. So we've had 3 formats, right? So at the beginning it was 20 minutes, but more importantly, it was in the ISSIMI facility. So you never knew what was going to be behind us, which was kind of cool, but it was also kind of annoying because you never knew who was going to walk through the background oblivious.
Yes, or just start some unexhausted car.
Random smoky old pile of shit.
Yes, and that would become even less coherent from the carbon monoxide.
What's worse, was the carbon monoxide from the uncatalyzed old cars, or was it us eating lunch and then recording?
Yes.
Because this is a common theme, if you haven't noticed.
Yes, and so the next phase was lockdown.
Lockdown was fun because I heard from everyone else who did podcasts, like, we can't do this. We want to do them in person. And so we came up with this, I'm going to say, relatively ingenious. You
designed this scheme, and people are still like, wait, how did you do that?
Yeah, it's really funny. I am a master of the ghetto rig. Like, you look at any of the videos that we produce, for Haggerty, and people really think we have budgets. The average guess that I get for the budgets is 10x what we actually spend. So I love to find a cheap way of replicating. I'm a Panasonic buyer. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Panasonic makes stuff that's 95%, or did for most of my life, make stuff that's 95% as good as like the real brands, but costs 1/10 as much.
They're like high-end brands, to be clear.
Like,
Not
trying to think of like stereo stuff from back in the day, like Denon. And well, there's the Bang & Olufsen, obviously, which is now everywhere. But there were these brands that were all
the stuff you get
Nakamichi. And so you could just always go. Like I just always buy Panasonic because I know their stuff is usually actually the stuff that's in the really high end stuff. And so I think of things the way Panasonic or Honda does, right? Find a way. And so that one was, I don't know.
World-class engineering for the masses.
We took our iPhones, which both had the forward-facing
You're going to share all this secret sauce?
Why not? No, we're not going back to lockdown, I hope.
People have asked you subsequently, and you're like, I'm not telling.
Yeah, I tell them stuff.
Carmudgeon listeners deserve to learn.
Curmudgeon listeners can know that what we
Even
did
if they don't care.
Some very loud, boisterous V8 just started outside.
Yes, very civilized.
What I realized was the vertical resolution of the front-facing iPhone camera was 480 by 720, and I'm like, oh, perfect. It was 720 tall. So yeah, we could wind up with 780. God, lunch we just ate, and it was a big hamburger. I'm sorry, it was 780. So we could put 2 780 tall images next to each other, and we'd have a regular screen. So we would each in our houses, sequestered away from one another because COVID was a real thing.
Yes,
we think, and we would put like laptops up on a thing and duct tape. I used Scotch tape.
But I did use Scotch tape, which is why periodically, I don't think we captured that many of them, but yeah, sometimes it would just fall down.
Yeah, we just taped up the iPhone to the monitor, and then on the laptop itself, we would do a Zoom call so we could see and hear each other. Yep. But then their phone was just recording. It was just recording the front-facing camera
of one for each of us.
One for each of us, and we each had 2 right side Apple Ghetto headphones. So we'll have an insert of this, obviously. But one of them, like my right ear, was always the one that was just recording. So the microphone would fall directly past my mouth, and the left one is so I could hear you and you could hear me.
Yeah,
and
that's how we made it all. And then we'd send 3 files to the editor and some inserts, and it would be a Carmudgeon show.
That's right. It was 3 files because it was your recording, my recording, and then the Zoom recording, just in case something happened.
Yeah, so that he could get the flow of the conversation and make sure that everything was synced.
And sync it up, yeah. That's cool.
So yeah, that was our engineering solution to deliver us. I don't know how many. I actually wrote this down. What was it?
So we did 46 episodes of the Carmudgeon Show on ISSIMI. And then I think 22 of them.
Episode 22 was the first lockdown episode, and 46 was the last lockdown.
So we did more than half of those episodes in lockdown, which is pretty cool.
On the ISSIMI channel.
Yeah. Yep. And now we're up to what I didn't even know. We're up to, this is 100.
This is 100. So we've done more than 50 of them on
on the
Haggerty
channel, on the new Carmudgeon show.
Yeah, but it was used to be a lot of disgruntlement because it'd be like 3 months between episodes.
Not always, but occasionally.
Usually.
Yeah.
Towards the end.
Well, we didn't have, not a priority for either one of us. We have real jobs.
Yeah.
Or you have a real job and I play with cars.
No, my job is to play with cars
your
as
job
well.
Is more fun than mine.
Although periodically it involves paperwork, which we don't like.
Me too. Every time I
borrow borrow a car and say, we will return it to you at least in a shoebox, even if it's not a car anymore. We'll return all the pieces we can find.
We don't do that. We return cars in condition often better than we found them.
That's true. You have to do some light restoration in anticipation.
I did quite a detail on your Mura when we did it for the Revelations episode. I did a quickie, and then Tim McNair came in, our friend, the detail god, and he did the engine compartment.
Yeah.
For his own episode.
And then I've had to do some restoration on cars also, yeah.
The best was the Saab 900 episode. The 900 came in, it was a little bit messy. And then the 99 showed up on, because we had a 900 turbo and then a 99 turbo. And it was like 11 or 11:30 at night after like a 15-hour day. This tow truck finally shows up with the 99 turbo on it. And the tow truck driver refused to get in the car because it was so gross. And so we go to back it out. It has no brakes at all. And I think the shift lever wasn't attached. So there was no way to, and no e-brake. So I got in the car and I was like, this smells very, very bad. And
we're in a hazmat suit.
We get it down and then push it back into the studio. And the owner, first of all, the car looked like it had been washed repeatedly with a Brillo pad. And then the owner wanted to shine it up and used an entire can of WD-40 on it.
And so you couldn't touch it. You'd slide right off.
And it stunk.
Yeah.
So we came in the next morning to start filming, and the studio was so full of WD-40 smell that we both got like nauseous and pushed the car back outside. We had to rinse it off with like a degreaser. But that car was nasty.
It looks pretty good on camera, right?
With a soft light box. I mean, that's our job, right?
Yeah,
job is to make the car look perfect. And when I borrow cars from people for that show, I always tell them, like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It'd be nice if it's clean. Sometimes they're not, just because we're begging people for their cars, and they're like, I don't have time to clean it. Yeah. But that car was literally dragged out of a junkyard. I was told it ran, and
it ran when it was new.
Apparently, yeah. Hopefully. I did something right to get that filthy. Anyway, so here we are, episode 100, in our lovely third format, which is this studio is gorgeous.
Fantastic.
Do you think there's a benefit to having cars in the background?
Yeah, I think it adds visual interest, a sense of dynamism. It dates a certain moment, right? If the car's changed and that time has passed.
Do you think I need to knock that wall down and
well, then we're going to be looking outside.
Yeah, but then we can sort of like have a car hanging from a cherry picker.
We could just put a 1/18th model.
That is, I don't know if you noticed, that's
a TV screen. We could have episodes of the Carmudgeon show playing in the background while we're recording the Carmudgeon show. That would be a mindfuck. Okay, so that was the retrospective on 100 episodes.
What was your... Hold on, before we go away from the retrospective, what's your favorite? Do you have a favorite moment?
I don't. I mean, I know there are definitely like memorable moments, usually when fluids come out of my nose hole.
Threw up from the...
Yeah, so that was the...
No, to me, it was your absolute... So your laugh is contagious beyond belief, because, this sort of... If I had to describe Derek to somebody, it would be like, okay, he's the vocabulary of a 94-year-old dame from the 1920s, and he's
If it were a car, it would be like a Mercedes 600 grosser.
Yes, exactly. Very understated, very together.
Somber.
And
austere.
Then when you start to laugh, when you genuinely, not a giggle, but when you break and go hysteric, Derek? When you go hysterical, you go 15 octaves up and you have this hilarious screaming laugh. And to me, the best one wasn't the Trump comment that made you throw up in your nose. It was the Pontiac endurance test. I think you were screaming
I also was
hysterical.
weeping. I was genuinely weeping. So yes, people still talk about the Pontiac endurance test. That is probably something at some point we should do. I did at one point look for a Pontiac Sunfire on Craigslist that we could buy for some hundreds of dollars, but I couldn't find one. But I guess I should probably have a saved Craigslist search so that we can attempt to replicate the Pontiac endurance test.
It passed.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a rental car. It was new at the time.
Yeah.
But that reminds me, we should still do the Mike episode. So Mike.
Yes.
Yeah. Mike was my best friend who passed away now 6.5 years ago. And he was
the cause of the Pontiac endurance test. He designed that test.
By virtue of him trying to kill a rental car.
Designed
like he wanted
and
it
executed.
Dead. But Mike is behind almost all of my... He's no longer on this planet, so he can't get arrested. The worst things I've ever done as a human being, he's been there and instigated most of them, including buying half of the cars I own. I mean, he was there for the Scirocco, the E30, and the 2316, plus I'm sure plenty others. So I should, now that he's gone, I think I should start writing down all the stories of just all the fuckery that we got into, including trying desperately and failing to blow up a Pontiac rental car.
Yes, and that episode was not the rental car abuse episode, which is a separate episode.
That was about you in a Macan.
Yes, but we also talked, I think, about a Tercel or something that you jumped and returned in a shoebox or something.
No, that thing drove 200 miles back sideways, crabbing down the road. But yeah,
from the bent chassis.
That was a bad one.
But the Pontiac endurance test was part of the the episode was called Gone in 2.5 Seconds. I don't even remember why we were talking about it during that episode, but it was supposed to be an episode about how fast the M8 was, and of course we ended up talking about Pontiac Sunfire or whatever it was. Sunfire. Yeah. Sundance was the predecessor.
Sundance was a Plymouth. Sunbird.
Plymouth. Sunbird, yes.
A lot of sun.
Yes.
Okay, so that is my favorite moment. So we'll revisit the Pontiac endurance test and all of the other Mike stuff in a future episode. You were going to say, I'm sorry.
What else has happened lately? Was I transitioning the dog leg? I've acquired a dog leg Mercedes station wagon.
Which arrived. So we talked about that in the last episode. We think this Derek's 124T model E320 is the only factory dog leg manual transmission.
Some people said maybe Datsun 510 because they did make station wagon Datsun 510s.
Yeah, I hadn't seen any comments.
And there was another comment where someone made something where I was like, oh, interesting point.
There was another interesting point, which is the current Bronco 7-speed.
Oh, yes.
Has technically it's a dog leg. It's a crawl. It's a 6-speed plus a crawl gear. So technically that's a 7-speed. But you showed up. You were at the port picking up your wagon, and I made you drive by my house.
Yes. We actually went by your house on the way there because the traffic was so bad that we ended up taking a different route, the old reach around route to the port. And so we just retraced our steps on the way back so that we could stop by with the new wagon.
That you have won. I mean, I have a really hot little E30 wagon. Really hot. You won. That's
you think so?
A purple E-Class manual. Okay, let's put it this way. Once you swap a 3.6 liter the C36 AMG motor in there with the manual, you will have one.
Yeah, one of our listeners has enthusiastically agreed to come assist and provide the motor, which is reportedly freshly rebuilt.
Well,
he always sends us. Matt always sends us notes when we've gotten things wrong about Mercedes-Benzes because he knows more than both of us combined, apparently, about these cars.
Matt, you need to get laid.
No, he's. I believe he's in it. Well, actually, I have no idea. I'm not going to speculate about his relationship status.
It doesn't matter, but if he knows more than you and me combined, he is not
satisfying his partner.
Yes.
So he's gonna come join us reportedly around the time of Car Week, and I told him to carry on, but he's driving out in a C126 that has a 113K swap. So that's a supercharged E55 engine.
Which is a 5.4 liter.
Yes,
let's be very clear.
Exactly. Into a C126 for Car Week. And then he said maybe you can stay for a few days afterwards and we can put a 3.6 liter in it. But even before the 3.6.
I'm sorry, though. I'm sorry. He needs to come before... Sorry that I have to dictate his schedule. He needs to come the week before Car Week so we can use my new Benpack lift and swap in that 3.6 liter so you can use a 3.6. You got to then get an E360 badge for the back of your wagon and use that as your Pebble Beach.
Well, I can drive it with a 3.2 during that week.
No, you can't.
Well, the other thing is I think he's going to be madly rushing to finish the car that he's displaying at Car Week, and so he's perhaps not available prior. I don't know if everybody in the car industry the week before Car Week is like, shit, my hair's on fire because I got to get this thing finished, and they're like, I haven't slept in a week, and
He's forgiven if he's just finishing his own engine swap, but if he's not, he needs to come out the week before, and we will get your car done, because I think a 3.6. How many horsepower was it? 3.6.
270-ish plus or minus. I think it depends on like PS versus horsepower. It's 268, 272, somewhere in there.
Okay.
It's 270.
So a 270 horsepower dogleg manual 5-speed purple wagon.
Yes. And it's sport line.
With Standheizung.
Yeah, well, the Standheizung is in the box.
Yeah, but we'll put that in. We have it. We have 2 months. So for those who don't know, in Germany there was, and I guess in all of Europe, but in the German market there's a thing called Standheizung, which is
see it in English described as auxiliary heater, usually made by Webasto.
Which is the
sunroofs and Standheizung.
So I had a 190 E 2.0 automatic as my daily driver for many, many years, 100 years ago, and it had Standheizung, and they have a little control panel on the center console in that car. There's a great YouTube video of the guy doing the full Standheizung routine. So he walks up to the car, it's covered in snow, and he's like, opens the car and pushes the button that starts the Standheizung, and then the rest of the video, there's like 5 minutes of him just getting snow off the car while the Standheizung is doing. So
its
what
thing.
it is the little gas furnace that's this sort of.
Is it a reciprocating? What's inside of it?
I think it's just a little heat exchanger that burns gas.
But how does it? Is it a turbine? It's not
reciprocating. Sounds like a turbine, but I think what you're hearing is it must be some sort of turbine. I don't know.
Spinning.
I've never opened
it's not reciprocating.
But all you used to hear so there was the panel, you'd hit a flame button and you'd hear tick, 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 and it would sit there and scream for a little while, and it had a little exhaust pipe and steam and muffler and stuff would come out. And it wasn't all that much muffler on mine back in the day.
Mine has a muffler on it.
That would make sense. And what it did was burn gasoline straight out of the tank to preheat coolant, and I think some of them had oil. But what it would also do in my 190, and this is a factory install, was it would turn the inside HVAC fan on low, and it would engage an electric water pump. So it would pump the coolant through and warm the coolant and heat the inside of the car, so you didn't have to scrape ice. But also you'd start the car and boom, coolant was at normal temperature. And when I used to walk to the bus stop for school in the morning in Germany, and this is 1991.
It also has a timer function. It has a clock in it. Yeah. So you could set it to come on at
whatever time. So, all the Germans would leave for work at precisely 6:52. And so at, 6:41, they would have their Standheizung going. And I'd be walking to school, and there'd be little steam clouds coming from the front right fender of all these old Mercedes. Not old, they were new at the time. And just all the cars would make noise. And I heard it was illegal in the U.S. for two reasons. Number one, for emissions, because they did not have
to put a catalyst on your Standheizung.
And number two, because of the risk of somebody starting a Standheizung in a garage, which would potentially
I guess you could start a car in a garage too.
Well, that's why Germans for so long were so opposed to remote start. I remember talking to BMW and Mercedes product planners about this. Germany would not let them have remote start. And they're like, hey, this is just not a luxury feature. This is on every GM product and every Chrysler product. And they're like, why do you need this? You could get someone. And they're like, you have Standheizung, asshole. Like, same thing. Yeah. Yes, but this is much more efficient. Well, we're American. We don't care about efficient. But anyway, so you have a Standheizung.
Yeah, it's a factory Standheizung car.
Potentially 270 horsepower rear-wheel drive.
Yes.
5-speed dogleg manual purple wagon. I'm sorry,
with the Recaro sports seats and the faster steering box, which is a fun phrase because it's a fast version of the least sporty type of steering you could have, and the sports suspension.
Hey, E39 M5 had a steering box.
Yes, and it is a benchmark of steering quality.
Yeah.
Or not. And it's a slick top also.
I personally like sunroofs, but slick tops are always cooler. I think that and it's got monoblocks on it.
And infrared locking.
Oh, yes. And the idiot, I'm sorry, the fine gentleman / financial moron, mental midget, who did that restoration on that car had to have lost.
Well, yeah, he spent 28,000 euros in parts alone to do the restoration.
Every bolt is gorgeous.
Yeah.
You can't drive that car.
I'm going to.
You can't.
It'll be fine.
You can drive it, but only for the sake of enjoying the car. The car is really, really nice.
Yeah, I was very pleased to see it. And so it's 3 months or whatever it was, about in the end of February, and it's now
right?
June. Yes, but when I saw the pictures of the underside, and got a sense of the amount of effort he put into it. I was like, I think this thing's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because it's
First
got
of all,
all this
he's
stuff you could
German.
never get here.
Right. And it's a German restoration, unlike your Cosworth Mercedes, which you also bought in Europe, but
Was an Italian job. And the car is originally a Swiss car. So, well maintained throughout its life.
Amazing.
So
amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very pleased with that. And went to the port in it to collect the other Sacco car that I spontaneously purchased last week.
The car that brought you to the port
Yes.
was your...
I did buy... So last episode, I was like, I need a W140. And this episode...
What era is this? This is your...
Plutocratic years. Yes, my plutocratic years. I bought a W140. It is a configuration that I honestly dislike. It's Jewish racing gold, as you call it. Yeah. Smoke silver with a parchment interior, and it's a 420, not a 500. So I've bought...
Peasant plutocrat.
My plutocracy bonus was not as large as I was expecting.
The economy is just not...
Yes, in this economy, I had to go for the small one.
V8.
No, I mean, the thing was really cheap for price per pound. I calculated this car cost less than $2 a pound, which compares favorably with most produce.
Fair enough.
But not bananas. So yeah, it's a one-owner car. I bought it from the daughter of the original owner, and it has 50,000 miles, and it's spectacularly like... I thought that the W140 was going to feel like a larger E-Class, but it feels altogether different to me. Like the quality of like isolation and ride quality and civilizedness and just comfort, and it's all super next level.
We were talking about that car was a tank, and the idea
Yes.
that Princess Diana died in one of them is just a shocking thought when you drive it, because you really do
she was
feel,
unbelted.
right, and that was, you feel invincible in that car.
Yes.
And she was, as you do in a current S-Class. But she, the crazy thing is they hit that post in the tunnel on the front right corner. So by all means, the most
At-risk occupant
was the guy in the front right seat, and he's the only one who survived the accident.
because he's the only one who was belted.
Yeah, she would have never died if she had her seatbelt on. It was her aorta ripping out from her heart when she hit the back of the seat in front of her. And that is I call that the Princess Diana S-Class to people who don't know chassis codes and whatever, but that's the sort of defining feature of that car. Is just, it felt like you could not die in it.
Yeah. It is an engineering marvel,
Yeah.
to be sure. A really impressive piece of equipment, but complex,
Yeah.
for sure. A lot of wiring, soft closed doors, which have their own pneumatic actuators and air pump, and just the electric rear view
I'm not that
mirror.
afraid of 140s.
I'm not either. They're built to high
600s
standards.
I would be. The V12s.
They're not. I mean, supposedly those are pretty durable cars. That engine is just access is a pain. Right. But the engine apparently is...
It's the air suspension and the ADC.
They have ADS, yes. Adaptive adjustable ride height, suspension, self-leveling in the back. There's a little more complexity. The ADS system is a little bit scary to me. It's I don't know.
Was the ADS still not? Wasn't ABC yet.
No, it's
back to body
ADS.
control. I'm scared to death of.
Yes,
but I think R129 V12s had ABC.
That would be news to me.
Then I'm wrong.
230s.
You know what?
I'm not.
What's his name? Matt. Your buddy
Matt can tell us whether. What
hey, Matt, stop not having sex and tell us what.
Now, if I had to guess, I would say that there's probably ADS, which is the hydraulic system. And we know someone who has a 600. It's a late 600, and it has ADS, and he cycles it every time he drives the car just to exercise the system. And I think that's probably a good practice, is to keep those systems going. Anyway, we have now, of course, during the 100th episode, fulfilled the promise of talking about Sacco-era cars. As usual, before we transition to a topic that's not Bruno Sacco, his 90th birthday is November.
I thought.
What did you think I was going to talk about?
Keep going.
His 90th birthday is in November.
Yes.
And we thought we should celebrate by having some kind of Sacco Mercedes get-together.
We need to have 90 Sacco cars all together in one place.
I'm well on my way to owning 90. Oh, I don't have to supply them all myself?
No, but I really do think we should have an entire selection of every body style that was available in a Sacco car in smoke silver.
Yeah,
because we're getting pretty close on there.
I know. I don't like that color, but here we are. It
was never my choice either, but all my cars tend to be JRG.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to bring up something else.
Oh, which is
we bought a car.
The other, the car that we jointly purchased.
I have never jointly purchased a car before.
Oh, really?
But I'm so scared of this thing that I'm glad that I only own a portion of it.
Yes.
So this is another one. Thanks. This is your fucking fault.
Another Carmudgeon listener, in fact, sent us a link to a car that I thought you were kidding about, saying that you wanted to buy, and I just showed you the...
Shit, we just double bluffed each other?
I showed you the Facebook Marketplace ad for this thing, just being like, haha, isn't this funny? Here's one for sale, and now we freaking own it.
Not technically, the deposit has been sent.
Okay, we sent a deposit, and
we're looking
there's
at
documentation, and we're looking at flights too.
So we purchased, thanks to that Rover V8 episode, I said, and I found the video afterwards, so now we have the insert of the video.
Oh, yes, of the one that you used to drive when you were in high school.
In high school, and I came back for the summers to the U.S., and I drove my friend Alex's parents' gold. That was more of a gold, two-syllable gold Rover. They had I think this one was an 81. This was an 80 in their first. Did I tell you the story? But they had a red Rover, right? The crash and the whole thing. All right.
Yes.
So anyway, I drove this one all summer, every year, and have not driven one since 1993. I'm not sure I've seen one in person.
An SD1.
Since 1993. But Derek, asshole follower on fucking Instagram, had to be a dick and send us the listing, and now we
have agreed to purchase
own a 1980 Rover
and
SD1.
It's in moderately deep Canada. It's in Edmonton.
It's outside of Edmonton, yeah. So now we have to go figure out how to go get it.
And drive it back and import it. And it might be California registerable.
It apparently, reading between the lines, we don't really know all that much about it, but reading between the lines, I think it might actually have originally been a California car and then converted to kilometers on the speedometer. But we're going to find out.
But it is injected, because a lot of those things were carbureted. But for the California, because this is the same engine as we discussed in the episode, that was used in the Triumph TR8, which was available for sale new in California and came with fuel injection. And this plenum looks exactly the same as a TR8. So my hypothesis, although I'd have no idea how fun it is or easy it is to smog a TR8, but the car is not going to be dismissed outright by the state of California as deeply forbidden.
Right, and especially because I think this one was originally purchased in California. The owner is the original. So the original owner passed away, and this is his grandson who's selling the car. And he said he wasn't sure whether his grandfather had bought it in the U.S. or not. There are 48,000 kilometers on the kilometer speedometer, but there's a sticker on the door that said the speedometer was replaced at 4,000 miles. And he had said, my grandfather could have bought it in the U.S. And so now we're going to find out. One way, I'm sure there's some sort of I can just call Rover and ask them, hey, where did this SD1 get sold?
It's going to forward you around the world to all of the owners. It's going to forward you from England to Germany, and then who owned Rover after that?
I don't know.
I think it ended up with the Chinese. So the phone call is just going to get forwarded around the world.
Please continue to hold.
As we connect
all
you
calls are answered in the order in which they're received. You are caller number 8.6 million.
No, caller number 1. Because no one else.
Your estimated wait time is
600
forever.
years.
It's a cool color. It's a little rusty.
A little bit rusty, but apparently functions. Yes, we're all.
We had a PPI done. Another Instagram thing.
Yeah.
Guy went to go look at it. Drove it. Said it drove great. Clutch catches high. I'm scared to death.
Yeah, that means the clutch is going to make it all the way to Calgary from Edmonton.
I don't know. So maybe we should ask in the comments, maybe our Canadian thing. How do you get a Canadian AAA policy as a non-Canadian?
I think that maybe Haggerty will definitely do an endorsement for international use. Yeah. And they might have roadside also. I think we might be able to do Haggerty roadside.
Hey Siri, remind me when I get home to call my own company and ask about Canada.
So
my own employer. Yeah, no, we'll get. That's what I'm nervous about is a 1,500-mile road trip in a 38-year-old car
which was widely panned for being of low quality when it was new,
hideously unreliable. But it wasn't like. It was the electronics. It was the door actuators and the windows and
the structure. They're prone to rust.
Well, yeah, there's that. Whatever.
The electrics can't be good. It's British.
No, they can't. No, that was what I'm saying. I remember John, the Alex's dad, would try to open the door, and as soon as he would touch the latch, it would ground itself and lock. Yeah, there was just other stupid shit like that. The only thing that ever really broke is I might have accidentally broken the prop shaft, the center drive shaft bearing, but I did a horrible burnout in it and had axle hop from hell.
Right. So it's a live rear end, maybe with DD on, maybe not.
It's a live rear end. That's all I remember. But the second we did this, I went on the YouTubes and I was like, Rover SD1 3500 sound, and I flooded my basement.
Oh,
my
yes.
God. The sooner we can get glass packs on this thing, the better.
Yeah, because it's not the type of car that either of us is really predisposed to own, really. Like these sort of uncivilized American V8s, cam and block, redneck type
the
cars.
the only V8s I've ever owned have been a Mercedes 6.9 and a Mercedes C43.
Yeah.
So 2 Mercedes V8s. This is going to be my first American V8.
First push rods?
Hold on.
Was your Isuzu?
Isuzu was overhead cam.
Okay.
Overhead disappointment. I think it had a belt. I don't remember. It had to be overhead cam. I don't.
Beats me.
A 2.3 liter Isuzu Pup. Was it overhead cam? Film at 11. I think it was. Yeah.
So maybe your first push rods.
Could be my first push rods. Definitely my first American engined British car. So I have 2 British cars, neither of which have a British engine.
Yeah, which is a genre that's common, British cars with non-British engines. I mean, Rover did enough engineering to that engine that you could argue it's slightly British, but the original design certainly was done at Buick, of course.
Buick. And you do not see the Ferrari connection on the front end of this car?
I mean, the shape of the turn signals is the same, and it's kind of slopey. But I think to call it a Daytona is maybe a little bit of a stretch.
I mean, it's Daytona inspired.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
It looks more like a Daytona than a Geländewagen.
Then that helmet. Yeah. No, I think they are spectacularly beautiful cars. I can't wait. I'm so excited about this. Scared to death.
Well, we have to figure out when we're going to get up there. Carmudgeon show might take a month hiatus as we try to unfuck this whole situation and getting this thing back.
We'll be on the side of the road recording a Carmudgeon show. Well, plug just shot out of the side of the... I don't know. It's scary, but...
What could possibly go wrong?
It's a Rover. What could possibly go right?
Yes.
No, I'm hoping for a 15-hour... 25 hour. Yeah. 25 hours of nonstop enjoyment. I'll sing
or amusement at a minimum.
Look, my thing is the car is a reasonable amount of money and people spend...
Especially when you split it.
Right. Well, exactly. People spend thousands and thousands of dollars on experiences, right? So you spend, like $1,000 on a concert ticket. I don't do that kind of stuff. I just tried to get tickets there was something recent where I was like, oh, I'm going to go see this concert. What the fuck was it? And tickets started at $1,200. And I'm like, I'm not spending $1,200 for 2 hours of listening to something that I could listen to on, a stereo. And so I think a couple $1,000 for an adventure to own something that might or might not be worth that amount of money when it gets home. I don't care. It's cool. So now we just got to get cheap flights. Hey, if you're looking to sponsor a podcast and you own an airline, we need to get to Edmonton, Alberta.
I think Air Canada is probably the path we'll end up with. But anyway, we will, more to come on the Rover, maybe.
So to celebrate the 100th episode, hold on, for tax purposes, to celebrate the 100th episode of the Carmudgeon Show, the Carmudgeon Show has purchased a Rover SD1.
Right.
Yeah. Tax write-off. Come on, it's half price.
Tax deductible.
Oh my God. Tax deductible shitbox purchasing.
Yes. We'll go to Canadian Tire. It'll be great.
It'll be great.
So we can buy a mixer.
Big trunk. We can fit all kinds of spare parts.
I don't think I have ever even touched a Rover SD1.
This is awesome. And it's 1993. So hold on.
93?
93 was the last time I drove one. It's 30
years since you drove one. And the car is
over 40 remember when old people were like, she passed away 30 years ago. 30 years. I'm that old fucking person now.
Yeah. So
it's been 30 years since I've driven a Rover
SD1. That's the only... I'm just trying to think about the cars I've experienced that engine in. Apollo, Range Rover.
I think it's only... I never with a manual though. Range Rovers never came with a manual because it's
not in the U.S., but you could get them overseas in a manual
with a 3.5 liter, 3.9.
Yeah, 3.5 and 3.9.
Huh.
Oh, all the Defenders.
Why don't we swap a 3.9 into this thing?
We could put a 4.2 and we could build it out to 5 liters.
5. Okay. I am like glass packs, 5-liter cam, like big lopey cam. Blah, 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 blah. The thing is, the car looks so dignified. It's a big luxury.
So if you're going to do that, then you may as well put like a...
Damn it.
Your computer's...
I know, I got a new computer and I haven't set the whole...
Your computer is
it
unionized.
It does a screen grab. Well, what that means is the end of our 100th episode.
Oh?
I don't know. I don't know what time we started this.
I don't either. Can we get a time hack, Paulo? How deep are we into this?
He just gave us a nudge like, I don't care.
Okay.
Are you done? It's been 40 minutes.
We have to talk also about the...
Rally and the racing.
Yes, that's right. You did Lemons a few weekends ago.
I did. I got to say, so how I was thinking about mentioning this is you did another one of your famous rallies this weekend where you put together great roads and a bunch of great people, and I didn't.
And mediocre cars. I think that this was a funny one because in the spirit of Lemons, maybe to some extent, normally there's at least some expensive cars, some asshole shows up in a Porsche 911 or something like that. Yeah, I know. And this one, one of our friends joined a little bit through the first day, and when he pulled up to see our motley crew of cars, he's like, wow, I brought the expensive car because I have a BMW E39 530i, and it's, maybe $10,000 car. And he's like, I have got the expensive car because everyone was driving shit boxes this time.
So this is, as usual, you start on Friday and everyone meets Friday morning, drives all day Friday, all day Saturday, and then Sunday, everyone kind of drives a little bit more and heads home. I didn't participate for two reasons. Number one, I had 2 crazy weekends in a row. The first weekend I was in Italy for that Villa d'Este amazingness. The second weekend was a 24 Hours of Lemons race. I am still very injured, let me say this for the purpose of workers' compensation insurance. I am very injured still from that GR Corolla shoot. And that's now 3 months and a week ago. I still have this friggin' brace on. I cannot grab anything. I cannot use my right arm. Apparently, tennis elbow, which is actually e-brake elbow in this case, is really fucking painful and really is not going away. So
you did a Lemons race having to shift like that?
I mean, yeah. I mean, the problem is I think it's not getting better because I need to use it. Like it's not
like
a
shifting arm.
I may have
got to drive around in the Chrysler minivan only.
E-Golf, thank you.
Oh yes.
Or I have a BMW i7 at the moment, but I'm too busy punching the screen on that fucking thing out of frustration.
Oh, that's gonna exacerbate your tennis elbow.
Yeah, I keep doing it, but anyway, so I had 2 busy weekends, and then you told me you were taking the 964.
Yes, I was going to.
Yeah, so Derek's got a fast Porsche. The car that I bought and built specifically for this type of event is Beatrice, who hasn't moved really in the 13 or 15 months since the last one when I broke the windshield, broke a headlight, blew 2 shocks, lost half the exhaust, and destroyed the throw-up bearing.
Yes.
Well, I didn't have time to get it done correctly. And you're like, well, I'm taking a Porsche 964. And I'm like, shit, what am I going to be able to keep up with you in? And I thought, if I take the little blue wagon, I'm going to break a windshield, which is brand new and $800. And if I take the Mercedes, I'm going to fuck up the front end. If I take the Scirocco, I'm going to fuck up the front end. I'm just not going. What did you take? A friggin' Miata.
I didn't know that was your thinking. I assumed you were too busy to come.
I kind of was, but the deal breaker was that Beatrice wasn't ready. Like, I don't want to risk any of the other cars. I thought I could take the Cabby, but I have that on non-sticky tires on purpose. And I just, annoyingly, out of the 10 cars that I have, none of them were ideal for this rally.
Mission, yes. And instead I showed up in the Miata.
You all showed up in Miatas. There was a Miata Z3, which is a morbidly obese Miata, and another Z3.
Yeah, and then the 530i.
And then an E39 530i. Oh, and then a 500e that also didn't do the rally.
Yes.
But anyway, it was fun to see you guys. It was always fun.
Yes. We did like 14 seconds of motoring on the last day together.
My brakes were on fire.
Oh, yes. You did set your brakes
on fire. For the record, do not upgrade your brakes pads to Bosch Quiet Cast. I did. So the problem with the wagon is I have Beatrice, so I don't need crazy aggressive brake pads on it, and I don't want to clean the wheels. So I
have basket weaves, which are just infinite
nightmares
cleaning,
and they're brand new basket weaves, and I want to keep them looking brand new. So I have these Bosch pads on it, and oh my god, I mean, it was dangerous. So I had to back off quite a bit, and then we came to a sudden stop at the top of a mountain road. We weren't even going downhill. We were going uphill, and we just like went down like one little curve downhill, and the road was closed for construction. And I was in the process of turning around to go back because I thought the car was going to catch on fire. There was
the
that
brakes
much
were
smoke.
smoking that much.
Yeah. So I'm going back to factory pads, and I'll just have to deal with the
Cleaning.
dust and whatever. But the whole thing was a real reminder that as wonderful as those rallies are, nothing comes close to lemons.
Mm-hmm. Well, it helps to have a car that can absolutely walk all over everything else.
Our race team's cars do not walk over everything. They fucking jog, sprint, and just it's ridiculous. Yes. It's like wearing I think I've said this before on the podcast. It's like wearing a superhero cape. Yeah. So we have an E28 and an E36, both of which have large M50s in them. And our team captain and the owner of those cars is Bill Arnold, who is nationally known for his work on BMWs and for winning Targa Newfoundland 4 times, for doing really well in one lap. And the motherfucker knows how to build a car, knows how to set it up, and he knows how to race. And so we had Randy Popst racing with us on the team, which cost us 3 penalty laps, which was annoying because if you do the math of how much faster Randy was on average per lap versus me, he would have had to drive, and I'm not a pro driver, right? So it's a pro driver penalty lap. He would have had to drive the entire 14 and a half hours of racing to catch up, right? So that was a little bit, I'd like to say unfair.
But you are faster than the average.
Yeah, but I'm not a pro, and I wasn't the fastest guy there. My fastest lap was the 10th fastest lap of the whole 120 car group, so I'm not that fast. There are plenty of other people who are faster than me, and there are plenty of other like semi-pro drivers in there. But so we started out with a 3-lap penalty, which is really almost 15 minutes.
You just have to get a mustache disguise for Randy next time.
It's his voice. He gets busted from his voice. He's got that, hey, Jason, that really distinctive, soft voice. So we started in dead fucking last because we had a 15-minute basically penalty. And we were in second place overall when Bill got in the car. And the deal is Bill is a Bill in a china shop. Like he's a little bit tough on the equipment.
Swift but hard on equipment.
Yeah. And he lost the right rear wheel around
he didn't completely lose it.
Well, it no longer was attached to the car by anything other than gravity. So he broke all the stud. Well, it's really not his fault. Stud snapped around a right-hand downhill, very high G corner right where you go to like, it's the crossover from the 2 mile to the 3 mile. So you kind of go down a hill. Actually, we have it on video. I'll get a clip of it. But you're coming down the hill and you sort of transition from a very steep downhill to level. And that nudge is a really pretty significant nudge. And the wheel snapped off. And he was like, shit, what do I do? And it was only like 50 minutes left in the day. This is day 1. And he thought, well, I lost a wheel. I'm just riding on you can't see. So he was like, I'm just riding on the rotor. I'll just drive in. And he drove in and he was like, lost a wheel on the radio. So we're all ready for him. And he comes around the corner. And it was like everyone, like hundreds of people just start laughing because he's dragging the fucking wheel behind the car.
Yes, it was jammed up in the wheel arch, sort of sideways.
Stuck between the brake rotor and the wheel arch. And he just dragged it. I mean, went right through right through the tire, right through the cords, right through everything. But the car was back on the ground on all 4 brand new tires with new brakes. Ready to go the next morning.
And presumably new bolts.
New studs for sure.
Yes. Oh, that's a studs car.
Yeah, they were studs. We run spacers on them just to fit so we can fit. And the reason it's not for extra track width, it's just so we can fit E36 wheels on both cars because both cars have E36 M3 brakes and one is an E36, the other one's an E28, so it needs spacers. Car was great. We finished 11th overall, which I think is pretty good considering we lost a wheel. We got 4 black flags in that car. One was
motoring.
One was Randy. Randy got a black flag for nothing.
For excessive motoring?
For contact. And we couldn't figure out. He's like, I didn't hit anyone. And Randy knows. Randy would admit. And we're like, sure you didn't, Randy. And then we realized there's no right-hand mirror. There's the glass in the right-hand mirror is gone. And I found it the next day. It was in the passenger, like in the footwell. Like it was in the car. He couldn't hit it.
So they kissed mirrors.
No, not even a scratch on the outside. The corner worker must have thought he hit someone. We don't know how the mirror got damaged, but like that theory is blown apart. Not a scratch on the car. So he got black flagged, and then one of the other drivers, our buddy Saul, got flagged twice, and then Derek got dragged. Whatever. 11th overall in that one car, and the other one got money shifted. So that engine is
money shifted.
Yeah.
That's always fun.
It happens. It happens when, we've talked about this, you grab the stick shift with a fist and you shift with your fist.
Yeah, because you just apply amount of force to it that is
The force is coming from your shoulder. You don't have fine muscle control and any feedback when you're this is sort of a rigid joint in your elbows, especially with all this bracing on that I have, and you just fling the shifter forward. You're not paying attention to what the shifter is telling you back. If you grab the shifter with just a couple fingers and you're moving it, you don't ever have to shift as fast as you possibly can on a racetrack. It's just not. This is not
in this
Formula
context.
1. Yeah, and you can watch the driver.
When you're racing for 14 hours, that's not going to make a difference.
I mean, it all adds up. But
yeah, but I'm not saying like double D clutch and then like have a coffee while you're in neutral and then.
But yeah, you can shift at a reasonable speed. And he did, absolute red line, 7,000 RPM in fourth, and right back into third. You can hear it and see the tack wrap around to pass the fuel economy numbers.
You're like, I'm getting 26 miles per gallon with the tachometer.
So that car DNF'd, but it still ran. Actually runs fine over 2,500 RPM, but it doesn't really want to idle. And
that means maybe bent valves or
definitely
similar.
Bent valves, yeah. Funny enough, it set its fastest time of the day afterwards, which just proves the whole thing. Engines run their best right before they blow up.
You're like, oh, this engine's great. And then, always the racing engines, and they always earth-shattering kaboom.
Or at least wallet-shattering kaboom.
Yes.
Okay. So that was the Piëch-isode episode.
We will do this. I've started actually engaging. I'm just making sure that we covered everything that we agreed to talk about.
Look at you with a list of things.
Well, because it was such a discordant episode about nothing that we...
It was not about nothing. It was about our 100th.
Yes.
Look, at your age, at 100 years old, you can celebrate.
I will soon be there. No, this episode was representative of the first 100 episodes, which was to say wildly wandering and discordant and not about...
full of useless and bullshit facts that are probably wrong, thanks, Matt, about old Mercedes.
So, yes. And on that bombshell, we'll call number 100. We will do a Piëch-isode, right?
Yeah.
Someday.
Yeah.
Maybe 200.
I might even do a Piëch-isode of Revelations.
Yes. The Volkswagen Phaeton is the car to use.
Yeah, I mean, or
the Bugatti Veyron.
Yeah, but I did. First of all, I did a Spotlight, which is the predecessor to Revelations when that show was at ISSIMI, on the Veyron. And I think it's a great story, but I think nothing.
The Phaeton deserves an episode. Yeah, but now you just have to find a good one.
If you are in the San Francisco Bay Area and you own a W12 Volkswagen Phaeton, please let me know, because I would like to do an episode.
God, there can't be many
left. Yeah, people burn them.
Well, even new. Nobody wanted.
I guess I could do a V8, but that's just no fun.
Yeah.
What more complex Piëchian piece of engineering than a
Q7
W12?
TDI V12?
But that's an actual V12.
Yes.
Like a W12 is like the most Piëchian thing ever.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's been a preview of the Piëch-isode. Join us next week for number 101. And
don't forget, if you're watching this on the ISSIMI channel, this is a special bonus for you. Go at the end of this episode right now and subscribe to the Carmudgeon Show YouTube channel, or you're missing out on all this rambling bullshit.
Well, when you sell it like that, it sounds like something you could hardly afford to miss.
They need to know, will they make it back in their Rover SD1? Will it explode?
Will the right rear wheel fall off?
No.
Will a door fall off due to corrosion?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We'll find out.
Do they put glass backs on it and do fucking burnouts?